Okay, welcome to the October 15th A.P.M.A board meeting. We are now live on YouTube, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. We don't have any guest attendees at the moment, and Matt, you're taking care of attendance, correct? Okay. We always begin each meeting with a reading of the mission. Appleton Public Montessori seeks to nurture the full potential of every child through the presence of the Montessori philosophy in all learning environments, encouraging intrinsic motivation and instilling a love of learning now and for a lifetime. I'd like to do a universal consent for approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Hearing no objection, we'll move forward. I'd like to move forward with approval of today's agenda. I would like to request that we make a motion to move, let's see. To move our other agenda items, reminder of upcoming meetings and events, and adjournment before committee work so that we can close the meeting and then turn off the live YouTube and move to our breakout rooms. So I'm just moving everything at the end before committee work. Do I have a second on that motion to move? Thank you, Paige. Thank you, Paige. All those in favor, I guess you can raise your hand, that'll work. All right, no opposed, any abstains? Okay. All right, so our first item up is a voting item to approve Katie Sundstrom as the co-chair of Diversity and Inclusion Committee. Do I have a motion to bring this forward for a vote?
I'll move that we bring that forward for a vote.
Thank you. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sarah. Are there any, we are open for discussion. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. Derek?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Matt? Matt?
I said yes, but it didn't register for some reason. Sorry.
That's okay. Stephanie, yes. Sarah?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Kayla?
Yes.
Paige?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
Andrea?
Yes.
And Nicole?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. We welcome Katie to the co-chair for the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. We move now to the administrator's report. Cassie Gilbo.
Hi, thanks for all coming tonight. So tonight I'm going to share with you some of our plans for when we go back in person. First, I'd just like to say thank you for supporting us in this virtual opportunity. It really has helped our staff get this virtual learning under their belts, and because of that, we will be able to first off offer a virtual option for families going forward if when we come back in person they want to stay virtual. So I'm going to describe some things, and I just want you all to know that the things that I talk about will be based on our district safety guidelines too. So if any point those safety guidelines change, some of this could change as well. So again, thank you for your support in allowing the teachers to practice this virtual thing. We know it's not perfect, but we're definitely getting some of it under our belts. So as we go back, and we do want to go back as soon as we can, school will look very similar as it has been, but it will include some of the safety measures that our district has put in place. So students will be able to use materials, and they will be able to use Albanese cards. We will have some sanitation measures in place. There will be some reduction of shelves and materials in the classrooms to allow for some physical distancing, but the teachers always have more than they need, so will not hinder the learning or the growth of our children. Students will still be able to use rugs, but they'll have a rug assigned to them that they'll keep using. They will have an assigned area to work, but they will be within 3 feet of other students as long as everyone's wearing masks. They can work in partners and small groups. We will have some safety signage around the building to help with physical distancing, especially by bathrooms. Students will not have to wear masks at recess or gym, and they can use our equipment. We will have some safety measures in place to ensure for sanitizing, but we will ask that you keep your home equipment at home. So that's kind of the first point, that we will be able to offer the virtual setting and the in-person setting as soon as possible that we can. The next kind of point that was interesting for us is that 4th grade, where the district is saying that K through 4th will be in person every day, but starting 5, 6 will be hybrid. So as I talked with our E2 staff, educationally speaking, we will encourage every 4th grade student to attend each day. And we think this will actually give a huge boost to their transition from E1 to E2. We know that can sometimes be challenging for our students, and the staff are really excited and eager to have that extra time with the 4th graders. That being said, as now, definitely willing and interested to work with each family if they need a different type of schedule, or if they have students split in the hybrid and not the hybrid. So we can work with families on that as well and make a plan that works for everyone. For Children's House, we will offer an orientation similar to the beginning of the year for Children's House, and we think this is educationally beneficial for a couple of reasons. It definitely allows the staff to get to know the students, a smaller group of students. It helps the students ease into this new kind of longer time away from their parents, especially now after being home for so long. It also gives students an opportunity to kind of get some needed instruction in this new environment, understanding the respect and care for the materials, and doing this in that smaller setting and that more intimate group really helps solidify some of that learning. And I think what Stephanie has here on the screen is just some of the things that I'm saying here. So that's kind of our 3 main things. And then the last thing I want to say about coming back is our biggest need in this situation is to know how many families will decide to come in when we can open as soon as possible, or stay virtual. And why this is important, because it will help us kind of understand how to structure the day with staff. And the first thing I want to say about this is we absolutely can take every single child back. So if every single person wants to have their children come back, we can do it. But what we need to do is we need to put in place a 1-to-20 ratio. So 1 adult to 20 students in an area to provide for the safety measures that our district has put in place. So if we have everyone back, that will look a little different than if we have half the students back, or 3/4 of the students back, or 1/3 of the students back. So some of the other things of like how the day will go, or who your students or who your children will be with, needs to be dictated by who's coming in. So when we get to that point, we will ask all of you to let us know, and then we can give you more of that structure for the day. As you think about the things that I've said, also think about what else you would need to know to make your decision if you would like to come back in person or not. And again, we don't know when that is, but as soon as we can, we will. So that's kind of the update on plans for coming back in person. Stephanie, would you like me to stop there for questions, or do I keep going here?
Yeah, so if you want to give your update, and then we'll have a discussion time set aside for this. So you can continue with your update. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about is our PE. We've definitely hit the ground running with our art and music, and that's being solidified every week.
Our PE, I want to apologize for the lack of support in PE. So we, as you know, we work with Apple Creek Y, and they have never put together virtual learning opportunities for students. So they're really working hard to do this. At the same time, they're also, most of their staff is furloughed, and the staff who are there have to work at the school sites who have the YMCA care. So because of that and kind of the delay in getting some of their support, I am working with Appleton Area School District and in negotiations with them to get some PE support from the neighborhood schools. So definitely working on that. And again, I apologize for not having that in place, but we are working on it. Finally, I just want to thank you all for supporting our families and taking the surveys that we send out as a board. We do take your input seriously, and although we can't solve every issue, I just want to encourage all the families out there to talk with their classroom teachers if they have needs. I know it's difficult to bring up another concern because we all know our staff are working so hard and they're doing, new things every day and learning new things every day they've never had to do. But I think they have worked with many families to make accommodations and meet families' needs. So please don't hesitate to talk with them about what you need, whether it's more challenge or more structure or less challenge or less structure, technology needs, things that you need. And then finally, on that note, please don't hesitate to also tell them what's going well. I think they could all use some reminders of how much you appreciate them. And they're probably getting sick of me saying it. So if some other people want to say it, that would be wonderful too. So I encourage you to do that. We have conferences coming up, so that would be a great time for you to check in with them. Thank you for all your support at home and the caretakers at home, especially with their iReady testing. You'll get some information at conferences about how your child did with iReady testing, but truthfully, the teachers were really focused on how things are going virtually and what's going well and what you need. So iReady testing is new for us. So we really kind of want to see what happens with the diagnostic tool and how the students go through some of those lessons. So that's all I have for my principal update. If you want to do your discussion now.
Actually, I have one question. Could you update us on attendance?
So our attendance is going well. Stephanie, do you have a specific question about attendance or just where it's at?
It was just one of our questions that we were supposed to track this quarter. So
thank you for reminding me. So our attendance, maybe surprising, maybe not surprising, but our attendance is much better this year than last year's, but we know it's very different. So students are getting marked present if they attend during the day, and it's actually reduced our numbers of students out for appointments. And we know that some of you are going to appointments during the day, but that doesn't necessarily get tracked as much. So it's kind of an interesting thing to think about that we have almost 100% participation in attendance. Last year at this time, when I pulled the numbers, we had 24 incidences of students already out. And actually I pulled those numbers last week was it our steering committee meeting? Yeah. So just, something it's making us think and understand that sometimes these different situations can be better for some families, but.
Thank you. Are there any questions or anything for the update? And then we'll move to the face-to-face discussion. Okay. So as you can tell, steering at this point in time does not recommend that the board take a vote on the face-to-face return. We don't feel that there is a need for this at this time, given that it is already the duty of the administrator to provide the daily operational structure and schedule to secure that learning is taking place. And our role as a board is to ask about the structure and the schedule. So it does require, though, we think then discussion about any changes that may be made to the schedule or structure and how that might affect families or students during the school day. We also do ask you to keep in mind that the current state of the pandemic in Appleton and our surrounding counties means that the school district and the health department may make changes to the models, structures, and health protocols. And this does make knowing exactly what the school day will look like when we return face-to-face difficult to outline in absolute detail. So you heard from Cassie today some of the ways that face-to-face will look at A.P.M. And we did specifically ask for those questions that came out in the first family survey in August to be thought of carefully at this time, which was the change to the E2 structure, given the required 5th and 6th model, the need for a continuous virtual model for those families who may need this for a longer amount of time than the district required virtual model, flexibility in attendance for younger students and groups of siblings, and the use of Montessori materials. So that's what Cassie outlined for us today. And we do wish as a steering committee to echo Cassie's response that we wish families to keep sharing concerns and questions and thoughts that they have about this face-to-face structure with board members and the administrator. And we appreciate your continuous communication with us through the family survey, email, and telephone calls. All of those are appropriate ways to let us know your concerns and questions. And we do encourage board members to discuss the structure today with families as well, so that people are sharing their concerns and questions with the community. So at this time, I'm opening up a discussion. It's possible, we can ask questions to the administrator, to steering. You can ask questions of clarification. You can state concerns or questions or comments at this time. It is an open discussion, and I can call on folks as needed. If I do need to share the screen, if you want to review any of those things, please let me know. Paige?
Yes, just Cassie, do you have any information, from the district at all? I mean, I think we had 3,000 new cases or something today in the state. I'm guessing, I love that you have planned this all out, and I think that that's great. I guess I'm just curious if you've heard anything about, when we could possibly be going back. I'm guessing not for a bit, and they would want those numbers down for probably a few weeks before they would make that decision.
Yeah, I would encourage anyone interested in that to go to our district website, look at the COVID information there. It kind of describes what they're looking for and what the possibilities would be. It also includes a case tracker where you can kind of see the cases of positive testing in our district as well, teachers and students.
Okay,
So I'm sorry, Paige, I don't have any more information for you.
Yeah, well, I like that you guys are prepared for this to happen, and we're excited about it happening. I guess I didn't know if you had any more information from the district, so thanks.
Derek?
Cassie, I really appreciate the fact that you've looked through the entire plan, and it sounds like made it possible for, if everybody wants to come back and attend in person when that arises, that it sounds like we're able to do that. Well, my questions are specific to that, because I know that that was one of our concerns with the split between 4th grade and then, and below, and 5th and 6th and above, doing that A-B aspect with a clean day in the middle. If everybody was to come back, how does that work?
Well, we definitely would have to consider some creativity of movement in the building, using our resource areas and gym space. One thing I didn't mention is the district is also in the safety guidelines asking that lunch be eaten in the classroom. So that kind of frees up our gym area for some of that overflow space to make sure that, you know, if the fourth graders are there on Wednesday, but that's our cleaning day, you know, what are we going to do with those fourth graders? So we can have them in another space. Obviously, the outdoor learning pieces and components were something we were really excited about initially before we were forced into the to drop that part. So that could also be part of our Wednesday piece, so the kids are kind of out of the area, if that kind of answers your question, Derek. But again, until we know how many people decide, it could look very different. If only 5 fourth graders decide to come back, that would be a lot, you know, a lot different movement needed and space needed than if 20 fourth graders came back.
Well, I'm just excited that, you know, I thought there might be a space capacity issue. So I'm glad that you've looked at the schematics of the school building and came up with creative ways to make it work if we get to that point. So great job. Thank you.
You're welcome. I walk around with a tape measure and just really make sure it all works out.
Leah?
With them going with the hybrid model for 5th and 6th grade, will the 4th grade still be mixed in with our 5th and 6th grade, regardless of them trying to keep like separate A-B schedules for the 5th and 6th graders? Are we looking at separating the 4th graders so they're not kind of cross-contaminating between those two?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And again, another consideration. Another behind the scenes component is our district has kind of already scheduled students in the AA and the BB pods according to their siblings. So something that we might not think of as elementary folk is if you have a sibling that's in high school, those classes are, you know, it's a little more of a burden to schedule. So depending on where your high schooler is, they're going to want the underclassmen to follow suit. So if you have like a freshman in high school and they're on the AA schedule, then all of your children would be on the AA schedule. So, you know, let's say we have, you know, two people on AA and 12 people on BB. You know, it will, again, depend on who decides to come back, and then we can make those plans. But because we have some flexibility in the space and we have the use of our paraprofessionals, which is not something that everybody has, we're really lucky that we can make that work.
Other questions, comments? Okay, it looks like some of our community is attending to do the work meeting. So that's why you're seeing some folks pop in to the meeting. And Katie, welcome. I just saw her, and then there you go. The squares moved around. I didn't know where to wave. And again, we encourage everyone to, you know, speak to a board member, contact a member of steering, contact Cassie to ask these questions about how it might work for your particular family and your child, or concerns about the school and the area. Okay, we do encourage that. Cassie and the steering committee are setting up an FAQ sheet as we learn more information, so that we can share out details as they become available, and as things change in terms of the health metrics, and if there are any changes in terms of the district parameters. Okay. So we'll just keep moving forward. We're probably just about 5 minutes behind, but that's okay. We're going to move to the steering committee updates. I have in my report simply the feedback from the first parent survey. So we had 69 parents provide information on that survey. Oops, hold on. You all just disappeared because I wanted to share my screen. Here we go. All right, are you all seeing a PowerPoint quantitative results from Family Survey 1? Okay, so I just wanted to give you a quick overview on this. These are the survey results from September 18th. Another survey went out on October 2nd. Those results were shared with the board members this week, and we're continuing to review those, both steering and board and the staff. What we saw from the first survey, which was really just the first 2.5 weeks of school, was that families can communicate with the school and get in touch with both the teacher and the administrator. Most families found that technology is working. There was about 15% of families who are having technological difficulties, and I think we can hear from Cassie as to how those have been resolved. And most students are engaged and highly engaged in Google Meets. We did see that about half of families needed some adjustment in structure, and some requiring more structure and some requiring less structure for their children, but some change in structure. And there is some variance in children's educational and developmental needs being met. Patterns in the comments. So again, this is not every comment that was shared. These are the overall patterns that we saw in the comments. Parents and families are completely supportive of our teachers and staff, and the board wants to echo that. We know how hard the teachers are working. That the students are engaged in Google Meets and enjoy going to those. The board recognizes that families are struggling with the amount of time required to support children. This was a particular pattern at the Children's House level. And the board does want to commend every family member who is supporting their children at this time. We know it is a challenge. We saw a need for differentiated learning, especially in E1 and E2. There was a large variance of a need for both more stuff and less stuff for children to do. There were calls for both synchronous and more asynchronous content. So we saw a pattern where a lot of families wanted more synchronous in class time, and then a whole bunch of families also wanted more asynchronous content to do at times that were more flexible. We saw that parents wanted more social activities for children and more group learning, and a need for more streamlined regular communication about classroom needs and expectations. And so I have the charts here in the pictures, and I'll quickly run through them. You'll see this is the technology, this is the communication, overall high satisfaction with those. The variance in engagement and learning development that I talked about. And then you'll see here the structure and scheduling with needing more or less structure. We do, steering heard from Mrs. Gilbo at the steering meeting about ways in which the staff is responding to some of the needs in the survey. Both the staff and the board review the survey regular with the administrator. We've seen that social activities have begun both through the school, community, and EE. The principal newsletter has changed. There is a weekly and daily Children's House communication. Art and music have begun. Physical education will begin. There is the use of iReady to support greater differentiation, and paras are now available every day in E1 and E2. So we expect to see some of the ways in which these responses will show up in the next survey, which goes out on Friday. We do thank all of the families for filling out the surveys and giving the board and the staff their feedback. Are there any questions on the survey? I know you all have been able to review the first one in greater detail than probably the second at this time. Okay. Oh, Matt?
Yeah, I don't have a question so much as a comment, just that in really going over the questions as you've kind of outlined in brief, this seems to be a real case of you cannot please everybody, not because anybody's requests or needs are unreasonable, but because there is such a broad range of needs. So it's going to be, I think we need to recognize as parents, which we all are on this on this call too, right? That, I mean, I feel like you said, the needs from this survey, many of them have already been addressed and met. And like the questions and concerns we got from the survey that went out 2 weeks ago that we got the answers for today, I noticed a lot of those concerns have also already been met in the ensuing 2 weeks. So again, kudos to the staff. They're clearly actually listening. They're probably ahead of us and are already aware of these concerns before we even put them down in writing and are addressing them. So thank you. Not to discourage communication, but just to, again, it feels like every week is an improvement over the last week. And so thank you to the staff for that.
Yes, I definitely have to echo that. And to our board members and Mrs. Gilbo as well. I have a child that's so excited about a principal lunch. And there was some Kindness Rocks pictures hidden today. And I see that Minecraft Club and Knitting Club are in the works, and Running Club has started. So kudos to everyone who is really seeing a need and thinking creatively about how to resolve and fill it. Paige.
Knitting Club? Why have I not heard about this? Marla would be all over it. Where's Knitting Club?
It hasn't started yet. I saw a note about it.
Okay, never mind.
It's forthcoming, but they're looking for somebody who wants to, and they're looking for expert knitters in our community, adult knitters, to join. So.
Oh, I think I forgot her name, but we have one. I forgot her name. I'll see if she'd do it. But yes, Knitting Club.
Try to reference Crystal Wheeler. She knits quite a bit.
Yes, that's who I'm thinking of. Yes, she's an amazing knitter for sure.
We will find all of the expert crafters in our midst and bring them out one by one. All right. Thank you again to all who filled out the survey. Please continue to do so. They will be forthcoming. Derek, did you have a question? Sorry. Okay. It is your turn then. It's your turn for the update, Derek.
All right. So for, I guess, my update, we're going to continue on with the SWOT analysis for each committee. And again, for those of you that might not have heard that, SWOT analysis for each committee is going to be looking at the strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. So we're going to help fill those out and collect those, and then starting to implement those plans that come out of that. And one of the things that we discussed is having a steering committee member, specifically, we all grabbed one and some of us grabbed two, where we're going to really pour into that committee itself and be there to try to attend meetings, help get that SWOT analysis filled out, act as a bridge between steering and, those committees there. So for myself, I'm going to take resources on that front. Stephanie's going to have diversity and community because she's an overachiever. Or one of them is very self-sufficient right now, is rocking it. So, and then Dan's going to have E&E, and Matt will take on facilities. So, all the committee chairs go ahead and reach out to your appointed steering committee member, get them invited to the meetings, get them involved. Really looking forward to that collaboration between steering and committee.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Dan, for the treasurer report.
Awesome. So right now we are sitting with $19,385.93 in our checking account, $10,101.48 in our savings. a little over $12,200 in our endowment, and $2,200 in our general fund. So we've got a net assets currently of 43,914, and that sounds great, but we don't forget we do have $12,775 of outstanding yet to be reimbursed items that we approved as a board. And so we did just receive 5,700 of those. So we are looking at that. We are looking at a banking account then of 23,787 combined between the checking, and we've got just over $7,000 remaining in the discretionary funds that we awarded to the school to use to try to do all these wonderful things that they're doing to try to make sure that we are successfully, as you know, within the facts and circumstances that we find ourselves in, able to provide best possible solutions. So we are sitting okay. We knew these expenses would be coming, but it does highlight the need for us to think creatively in terms of how and if and why we're going to do any sort of fundraising. And I did see, and I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, but I did get an email about a really exciting fundraising opportunity earlier today, which I'm sure somebody else will touch on later. But in other words, we're good now. We're where we expect to be. But start using your thinking caps about how we can be creative to make up that, so that we can continue to be in that comfortable fiscal position that we should be in, if that makes sense. And again, everything will be posted on the drive if anybody wants to look at it.
Thank you, Dan. All right. And Matt, you had a request, secretary update.
Yeah, just a reminder for everyone to fill out the contact form. I emailed that out to you, and as well as we will be, we need to refigure all of the various email passwords. Somewhere in the mix, as email accounts have been passed on and passed on and passed on. People have been changing passwords, but not updating the master document for that's on the steering Google Drive. So if you can get those to me, I need to figure out how to do that securely. So I will send an email when I have that, figure out what's the most secure way for you to get the passwords to me, so that I can update those. But just keep an eye out for that, please.
And a reminder, I will send our Zoom links to your individual email address, because I think that's, you know, in case you need to reach it from your phone or something like that on a board meeting night. But do try to use your board email as much as possible. And so you and your co-chair should share that email so that you can correspond with your community and your committee using that email address as much as possible. Okay. We don't have any other agenda items at this time. I just want to remind everyone of upcoming meetings and events. Parent-teacher conferences are next week. As I said, Kindness Rocks Running Club and Mindcraft Club have started. Lunch with Principal Gilbo is ongoing on Mondays, correct? Right? There's a sign-up genius for that. And an email from Paint-A-Plank, or about Paint-A-Plank, went out today, which we're very excited about, because it's our first fundraising event of the year, which, yay, thank you. Are there any other events or announcements that committee chairs would like to make before we adjourn and move to committee work? I got them all? Really? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn? I guess I could do a unanimous consent to adjourn. Yes? All right, hearing no, what is that? Hearing
No objection.
No objection. I'll just go take us live off of YouTube. If you're a guest, please hang on and I'll move everyone to a breakout room and we'll talk about who's going to what breakout rooms. Okay,